So let's talk about creating a cyber secure storage system. If you look at security and data storage, often it's an afterthought. What tends to happen is you go out and buy a primary storage system or two, then you buy a backup storage system or two, and then you buy some sort of an archive system. And then at some point after you've got data going into these systems, people start thinking about, how do we secure this? And of course, you can secure it through authentication and login, and as you should. But typically, what people start thinking about is encryption. How do I encrypt data on these systems? Well, if you've already got them in place, your only option is to lay encryption back over top. And doing that actually gets kind of complicated because now I've got data there. Users are used to an experience of performance without encryption being laid down. So it becomes a real delicate balance as to what you do. There's two options. One is you can add software that will encrypt, and that means that essentially we divide this unit in half or some percentage, and we copy data to the encrypted side. And so then you're just kind of picking and choosing what you should encrypt and what you shouldn't. The other challenge with this method is that means I got to deploy a different encryption method for each of these tiers, my primary tier, my secondary tier, and my archive tier. And so that really kind of creates a real management problem because I got these different encryption things going on. The other option is to use a what's called a self-encrypting hard drive, or self-encrypting drive, I should say. And what a self-encrypting drive does is just that. It encrypts as its data is being written to it. But it only works once once the driver has value, once the drive's been removed from the storage system. And so where it's really ideal is if you're going to dispose of SSDs or hard drives and literally throw them into the trash, then it has value because once it's been removed from the storage system, you can't read data on a self-encrypting drive. But when it's in the storage system, you can absolutely read data on it. So it really doesn't do you a lot of good. What we think makes more sense is to buy a single storage system with always-on encryption. And so what that means is encryption is built in to the storage system. So just like snapshots are a feature and replication is a feature and RAID's a feature, encryption is a feature. And so when data is written in, it's automatically and always encrypted. So you're never forced to choose, should I encrypt this or should I not encrypt this? And always now the performance is essentially static. You've always lived in an encrypted environment. You don't know what performance is without encryption. And you can design the system, if there is any performance impact, around that reality. Now, also a good news is if you've integrated encryption into the storage software itself, its impact on overall performance is much lighter. And so now we have a single system that has one type of encryption on it. Now, how do I deal with secondary storage and archive storage? Well, the best thing to do is have a storage system that can fulfill all these functions. And so what we're looking for now is software systems that can do a lot of their own data protection, including copying data to the cloud, for backups and long-term data preservation. Also, archiving data so that as data ages over here, we trickle it down here, but it's still encrypted as we move it. And so that helps a lot. Now, one final thing is encryption is not the cure-all. If somebody gets through your environment and they're authenticated in, that also means they've been authenticated typically through the encryption algorithm as well. And so they do have full access to data. So the other thing we really want is some really good analytics and reporting to tell us if there's been some sort of break, if you will, or a breach of the environment. And what we're looking for there is a user has suddenly changed 5,000 files, or a user is asked to delete a volume, things like that. And so those should be flagged. Now, again, this analytics and reporting shouldn't be something that's manually run once every quarter. This should be done in real time. And so it's always running. And so the moment a user changes 5,000 files, which means that their account's probably been breached and a malware virus or something like that is actually doing the changing the files by encrypting things, IT gets an alert letting them know that's happening. Then the moment they get that alert, they can deploy stuff like snapshots or the cloud copy to recover from that attack. So key thing to look for as you start thinking about a very secure system is think of it holistically. You want a single system that has always on encryption, can do a lot of its own data protection, yet can manage data by archiving it and moving it to the cloud. And then probably almost as important is be able to do its own analytics and reporting so that you know the moment there's been a breach so you can take corrective action. I'm George Crump, lead analyst with Storage Switzerland.